relationship with your skeleton?
It helps me stand up.
Do you think, oh yeah, at all times there's a skeleton inside me?
No, like, I don't know. I don't know that I really think about it from day to day.
You don't think that when you die and decompose, that's just your skeleton hatching?
Ew. That's really gross.
No,
that's like the grossest thing I've thought of all day.
your skeleton is coming to life, and now it's skeleton's time to shine. I think a lot of people don't realize that there's skeleton. Well, they realize it, but they don't like to think about it. I like to think about my skeleton.
You do?
Yeah.
You guys best friends?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the essence of me.
So you are your skeleton.
The core of me is my skeleton.
But your skeleton isn't like a separate being from you.
No.
Okay.
But I think people often use like, oh, at the heart of it. I think we should say like, oh, at the skeleton of it. At my skeleton, I'm really a, and then you could talk about like what kind of person you really are at the skeleton level.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Beauty is only skin deep, but
True.
the skeleton is forever.
Skeletons don't lie.
Yeah. Wait,
Can they?
they might.
Oh, I don't know.
They tell when you lie, like that time when it goes, Lydia lied to her parents.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That episode of Beetlejuice. Should we start this episode?
Oh, are we doing something here?
Yeah, let's do a podcast.
Oh, sure.
Hola y bienvenido a Mi encanta esto. Tú también deberías. Soy tu anfitrión Indy, el fantasma Randawa. Y esta es mi amigo Samantha, como se dice por seco en español, he's. ¿Cómo estás, Samantha?
Bueno.
Y
Mood-
poquito borracho?
I don't know. I can't remember what
Sí.
borracho is. This is hard. I didn't get ready for a Spanish podcast.
But we watched a Spanish movie.
We did.
So we're going to do the whole episode in Spanish, right?
Maybe.
My mangled, mispronounced Spanish.
There are people listening right now that are like cringing.
Yeah.
Jasmine's probably cringing as she runs.
Well, I don't know what the word for should is. My Spanish isn't great, is what I'm saying.
Right, okay.
So I often default to French stuff because I know French.
True.
Or let's do the introduction in English as well.
Yes.
Do you want to know what I said in Spanish?
Yes, I do.
I said that I'm your host, Indy the Ghost Randawa, but Fantasma sounds
Right.
so much better.
It
It's one of my
does.
favorite Spanish
It's
words.
a good Spanish word, yeah.
El Fantasma. If I were ever a luchador wrestler,
You'd
my
be
name would be El
Fantasma.
Fantasma. And this is my friend, Samantha.
Oh,
And
we're just friends.
I said friend because I didn't know for co-host.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, and I might have said amigo instead of amiga.
Yeah, you said amigo.
Whatever.
We're just friends. It's fine.
Samantha, how do you say Prosecco in Spanish? He's.
Oh, hello.
And this is an episode of I Love This, You Should Too, and we are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, which is locally grown and community supported.
Yeah.
And we're here in the middle of Spooktober now, doing our second spooky episode.
Spooky. Our first sponsor of the day is the Alberta Podcast Network, which we just told you we are proud members of. And some of our fellow Alberta Podcast Network podcasters are doing spooky Halloween episodes as well. So I shouted out a few last time. This time I have one called Quantum Kickflip, which is a sci-fi actual play podcast based on the game Slug Blaster. And it's an Edmonton-made tabletop role-playing game.
Oh, wow. I don't know about this.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
So basically the premise is bored teams travel to other dimensions using their modified hoverboards and fight monsters with souped-up devices.
All right. I'm on
Yeah.
board.
So the first episode of Quantum Kickflip took place on the first day of high school. And in October's episode, the crew travels to the walking pits and faces off against shape-shifting doppelgangers in an homage to John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, I do like The Thing. And we're also going to talk about doppelgangers a little today.
Yeah. So Quantum Kickflip can be found at quantumkickflip.com or anywhere podcasts are found. And their episodes about the walking pits will be released on October 13th and 27th. So, Indy, what did we watch this week?
So last week it was my pick, so I chose the Spanish film El Orfanato, or The Orphanage, from 2007. I saw it in theaters back then. I really enjoyed it. I think I'd only seen it once since, again. But I claimed I love it, and I brought it to you for your first watch. So, Samantha, as the title goes, I love this. Did you?
I'm at like 90% too. I love it.
Wait, so 90% overall? Because you said love is at 80%, which is, I think, going to be part of your vows, I believe.
No, like I'm 90% of the way to 80%.
Okay. 90% of the way to 80%, what makes you 71? No, wait, that's not right. But either way, you
almost
like
at love it. Yeah.
Okay.
I like it a lot.
You like it a lot.
I took points off because I hate the anxious feeling I get when I'm scared in a movie.
So this movie did its job, and that's your biggest problem with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that, but it is hard when you're talking to people about like a movie that you think is really good, and their biggest problem with it is like, oh, I don't like that kind of movie. Mm-hmm. Because I'm kind of the mindset of anything done well, I will love. Like, I love a lot of romantic comedies. Mm-hmm. I love musicals. I love horror. I love everything if it's done well.
Right.
But you are more like, there's things you like and things you don't like. And you have a hard time kind of breaking through that.
I do. And one of the reasons was because I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed watching it, but I didn't enjoy sitting through it because of how anxious I was the entire time.
Okay, let's maybe talk about that a little bit, because I love movies like this because I have a hard time being scared. Mm-hmm. I don't get scared very often.
No, because you've been watching scary movies since you were 6.
That is true. I did see my first Friday the 13th when I was 6.
Yeah.
And I think I saw Return of the Living Dead then as well. But not until a few years later.
Oh.
But I'm perhaps desensitized, or perhaps I'm dead inside. Who knows? But when you watch a scary movie and you feel that, I kind of like the reminder of like something more visceral, because I think so many of our movies and so much of our life is meant to distance us from the harder emotions, from extreme emotions.
Right.
Everything we try to do is to make sure that you don't have to be like extremely hungry, extremely scared. You don't have to go through those things.
Right.
And I feel like I kind of miss that in my day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. As stressful as work or something can be, it's not the same as a true life or death experience. Mm-hmm. And neither is a scary movie. But it's as close as we get in a controlled environment. Mm-hmm. I think it's the same reason people love skydiving or racing cars or whatever.
Right, because you get that brush with danger, but you're not ever really like at risk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, and I don't enjoy that feeling.
That makes sense. I get it, because if it's outside of a movie, I do not enjoy that feeling. I wouldn't like to be scared in the outside world. But I do enjoy it in this controlled environment, because I know all of my anxiety is going to be done in 100 minutes. Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I kept telling myself. But my instinct when I feel like that is to just get up and walk away.
Then, and that makes sense, because that's what we're kind of conditioned to do. But do you find when you're scared and anxious in a movie like this that you can still watch it? Like you would watch another movie?
Yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed the story, and I enjoyed like the film itself. I would have enjoyed it more if it wasn't so scary.
Right.
Maybe I'm just a wimp.
No, but it makes sense. It fundamentally makes sense, and it's probably harder to explain why I like to feel scared.
Yeah.
But I think people who like horror movies are just like, yeah, of course, I get it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the horror movies I like aren't even really scary. They're almost like fun. You celebrate the fear. Yeah. This one I do think is a scary movie.
It's legitimately scary. This is probably one of the scariest movies I've ever seen.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah. So we won't get into all the specifics yet, but if you're not familiar, this is more of a film analysis and review show. So it's not going to just be like, that was good. And it's definitely going to have spoilers as well. So if you haven't seen The Orphanage, go check it out now before you listen to the rest of it, because I think there's a lot of really good things that we are going to spoil, and it will not have the same effect if you watch the movie after listening to us.
Yeah.
But I do think you should watch the movie, listen to us, and watch it again.
Yeah. So I think this is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen because it deals with something that I'm like legitimately scared of.
Creepy children?
Ghosts.
Oh, ghosts, yeah.
And I don't want to get into like are ghosts real debate with people, but like I have lived in a house that was very haunted. That's why this movie was so scary to me, was because this is like an actual fear that I have.
That makes sense. If you could actually see yourself in the situation, because maybe if you're watching a werewolf movie, you're like, well, werewolves aren't real, so what's the...
Like, I'd be, if I met a vampire, I'm sure I would be scared, but that's not really something that I expect to happen to me in my life.
Let's talk a little bit more about this movie, kind of at a basic level first. So I made the mistake that I do every, 20 episodes or so. I guess I didn't even intend to do it, but I was looking for a Spanish language trailer to put up on our show notes.
Right.
And of course, all of the things I found were not trailers at all, but rather The Orphanage Explained, because nobody got it, I think?
Oh.
So we'll come back to that.
That's weird.
But another thing I kept coming across was like, oh, this is not your traditional horror movie. Did you find this a traditional horror movie and what you think a horror movie is?
Yeah.
I think this is a return to traditions, absolutely.
I totally think so. Because there's so many campy horror movies that are like kind of the genre now.
Like what, for instance?
Well, I'm just thinking about like the Jason movies.
Okay, I don't think one of those has come out in the last 15 years or so.
Okay, but
maybe there has been
that
one.
kind of thing is what people think of first when they think of horror, I think.
Maybe. I think you are pulling a classic indie and being 20 years late. Because just how I always think, like, yeah, it's 1985, right, guys?
Yeah.
I think you're doing that this time. I think what people think of now as horror is jump scare.
Right.
And a little bit of the, like,
and lots
torture.
Of gore.
Yeah. That kind of stuff. So when I kept hearing that this is not your traditional horror movie, I think those people need to watch more horror movies, because this is absolutely a return to traditional horror movies. I think I actually talked about this in Beetlejuice, but all of the good, like, spooky movies, I think follow the same very specific steps. The first little bits is about your setting with some initial little spooky things. And of course we get that here when they go to the new home, the orphanage.
Right.
You get that in The Shining when they're going to the Overlook. You get that in Haunting of Hill House. Everything happens like that. And then one person is convinced about the supernatural, others are not. Usually it's a child that is convinced first.
Right.
That happens here. That happens in all of those movies. Then you get the possession and the call of experts, but those can be flipped.
Right.
The possession in this one is when they take, or we think they take, Simone away.
Right.
And then the call to the experts is when they have the woman come in and do her, like, walkthrough of the house and talk to the ghosts and everything like that. Eventually there's a confrontation. In this one, it's when she sets up everything like when she was a child. And then you usually in these movies have a really happy resolution with peace.
Right.
And we can talk about how happy this is, but there's definitely a peaceful resolution to this.
I thought there was a happy ending.
But Poltergeist, The Shining, Amityville, all of them follow these exact same steps. This does as well, so I definitely think it is a return to traditions. So did you think this was more effective than the kind of jump scare driven horror?
Yes. Yeah. I hate jump scares, like, more than I hate being scared. I hate jump scares because it's like the anxiety that I felt throughout this entire movie in like 5 seconds. And I feel like I can't do more than like 1 or 2 of those in a movie before I'm just like over it. I'm just like, no, this is dumb and I kind of hate this. Whereas like they did spread it out and I could kind of deal with it.
Yeah, there were a couple in here, but I didn't find them manipulative because I think I hate jump scares for a different reason. I find them cheap.
Right.
And when it scares me, I don't want to like applaud the filmmaker. It's like, oh, you got me there.
Mhm.
It's more like, yeah, I could do that too. I could just go boo.
Yeah.
It's not.
Ah.
See.
Good reaction time on my
Yeah.
part.
But this one, I found the jump scares because there are a couple, but I liked them because we have this more long, drawn out, suspenseful fear. And when you get a little jump scare, like one of them that actually scared me so much that I ended up laughing afterwards
Yeah.
was when we see Benigna in that shed.
Right.
Because I was so scared because they just had this shot of the shed.
Oh, I know.
It was a terrifying shot.
And she like kind of blends in, kind of doesn't.
Yeah. So then when you see her, she already has this appearance that is, it is both frightening and pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost uncanny in a way because she doesn't look like quite normal.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So when you see her kind of blending into the wall and then you recognize it as a person, that actually did
That
scare me.
was scary. I was scared.
And I felt that kind of little jump scare as a bit of a release almost. So of that anxiety I had of going to that shed. So that's why maybe your instinct is to laugh when you get scared like that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that one worked well. I think the jump scares in this there's probably maybe 3 or 4, and they're spread out throughout the entire thing, and I felt they were well deserved. They weren't out of nowhere, and it wasn't just a face jumping out at you. It was something that made sense to the plot.
And one thing I really enjoyed about this movie is that it wasn't like kind of a, I'm going to say like a current horror movie because I don't watch a lot of horror, but the ones that I've seen, it's like kind of boring for the first hour, and then there's 20 minutes of like action.
Right.
And then there's like 10 minutes at the end to like wrap it all up, assuming it's like a 90-minute movie, which they're not usually, but if we're following the 90-minute formula. Whereas this one, like you said, there was some kind of plot, but the spookiness started right at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, I think it starts out at a great point.
Yeah, you kind of got that spookiness all the way through, and not just like 20 minutes of really loud, really fast camera transitions.
Yeah, it was a nice, solid ramp up. I loved the pacing of this movie. For some reason, I thought in my memory that it was a little slower and dragged a bit. Perhaps I was more impatient when I watched it last.
Maybe.
But this time I was like, no, it
was a good pace.
No filler. I'll kill her.
It wasn't that ghost movie that we watched.
Well, that's not a horror movie. No. That's like a transcendental art house movie, a ghost story. But we bring it up a lot on
we
this.
Do, because I did not like it. Yeah. Did we do an episode on that one, or did we just watch it?
I had borrowed it from the library and was going to watch it, and you said, yeah, I'll watch this one. Yeah. And you did not care for it.
I regret my decision after.
But yeah, the overall feel of this, I loved it because I always think it's more frightening to wait for something to happen than to see it happen. Yeah. Whatever is in your mind is going to be scarier than whatever can be on screen. And this movie has so many chances to jump scare you or to show you something horrific, but it only takes advantage of that 3-4 times. And that restraint kind of adds to the anticipation and a different kind of fear, I guess. Because you're afraid of what is going to happen. And if I may quote Alfred Hitchcock, as I do, I think I've used this on this probably last year when we were talking about spooky movies. Probably. But he has this, I think it's published as a book, but this conversation with Truffaut, who is also a very talented filmmaker. And he says that the difference between surprise and suspense is that if people are seated at a table and a bomb explodes, that's a surprise. But if people are seated at a table and we, the audience, know there's a bomb under the table and there's a ticking clock, but they continue to play cards or do whatever it is, that's suspense. Right. And I think this movie is definitely full of suspense more than it is surprise.
That's a good way to put it.
I know a lot of movies that I bring you in the horror, I always talk about like, well, it's actually a metaphor. This is a metaphor for loss or the cycles of violence and all things like that. Do you think that about this movie?
No, but I could be missing that.
Oh, I think you're just second guessing yourself.
I am guessing. I am second guessing myself because I feel like you always get movies on a deeper level than I do.
But I also said in why I love this is part of it is its simplicity and return to tradition. Because I don't think you can make an argument like, oh, there weren't any ghosts. It was all in her head. It was her dealing with her loss.
No.
Someone could make that argument, but you can easily dispel it like, no, look what happened. There's ghosts in this movie.
Yeah.
This movie posits a world with ghosts 100%.
Yeah.
I think there's a little things you could say, like maybe that part was just in her mind. There's maybe little things.
Right.
But this movie is about ghosts and haunted orphanage.
Yeah.
I think you could say that the supernatural element is an extension of her grief or is representative of it, but there are 100% literal ghosts in this movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think it does mirror grief a lot. And I think maybe as a film, you could say that this is representative of grief and it's a metaphor on that level. But in the world of the movie, there's definitely ghosts in that movie.
Yes.
So I was talking about how there aren't any Spanish trailers for this movie on YouTube, but there are hundreds of The Orphanage explained videos.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you got it?
Yeah.
Was there anything that you are like iffy on?
No.
I don't think so either. And I don't want to be like, well, I get movies, but I don't get what you wouldn't get.
But that's also, this is like a good test because like I often don't get the same things from a movie that you do, but this seemed very straightforward.
Yeah, so much so that at the end when there is a series of flashbacks to explain what happened,
Yeah.
if I have a criticism, I'd say like take out those flashbacks. We get it. We don't need that to explain it to you.
Yeah, I don't understand why people wouldn't get this movie.
Me neither. We'll talk about the ending. How about at the end of the podcast?
Sure.
And then we can go through things, and maybe there's little parts that I didn't get or that you didn't get, but
maybe. But yeah, I feel like it was very straightforward and it
Yeah.
was very self-explanatory, but it did a good job of explaining when necessary.
yeah, it's all about the fall of the Ottoman Empire. Clearly.
Did we watch the same movie?
I kid. Well, let's kind of start at the beginning then. I love how this movie sets things up because I knew the ending of it. I'd already seen it. So I was able to pay attention to the beginning and realize, oh, they tell you the whole ending at the beginning of the movie. And quite a few movies, especially scary movies, when you rewatch them, you realize that. And you get to see all of those little things.
So where did they do that?
The beginning of the movie is much like the end. So it starts with the 1, 2, 3 knock on the wall game.
Yes, yeah.
So I loved that. Right at the beginning, when Simon is in the cave, he invites what we then learn to be Tomas.
Right.
Like, oh, come home. Come to my
house.
house to play. And then, of course, that's why he goes over there, right? We do get really specific shots of things like the key before it's important. The key to that little locked drawer.
The drawer, yeah.
The shells. We have the sound of things knocking on walls, like metal things hitting walls. We have that very early on and people like making reference to that sound. And way before we get any word about Tomas and the other kids, we get to see a picture that Simon is drawing.
Yes.
And we don't even look at it then. We look at it later, but he's drawing it very early on in the movie. And the bit with those big stands that covers up the door later on, you get those stands like 3 times in the first 30 minutes of the movie. So it's showing you all of these things. It even covers the camera at one point. The camera is at the point of view of, I guess, what the door would be. And she puts the stand and it covers the camera, not letting you, the viewer, move. Right. Which will, of course, foreshadows what will happen later. I like with the, which saint is it? St. Anthony? There's a saint medallion that the husband gives.
I think it's St. Anthony.
And it's the patron saint of lost things. And he says, well, give it back to me when you find him. Yeah. And then she gives it back to him.
He finds it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of those things are set up in the first half hour. And it's just well done.
Yeah. I agree.
So I know we'll talk about the ending later, but was the ending a big surprise for you?
Yes and no. I was surprised at the fact that he had died because she had thrown the stuff back in the closet. Part of me wondered if he'd either gotten crushed by one of those like metal
Oh, so you did
holes.
see those things and think like, hey, this is something so
Yeah, and
Oh,
because I knew
interesting.
that he was like fond of hiding, right? Like, so I thought maybe he'd hidden in that closet. I didn't think beyond the closet, like in a basement.
Right.
But I definitely thought maybe he was hiding in the closet and he got like injured or hit his head or something when she shoved those things back in the, because she does it really roughly during the party.
Yeah.
And she really like throws them in there.
Because she's in a panic.
Because she's in a
trying to find
panic
him. Yeah.
and she's angry that all of that stuff fell out. And so she throws it all back in. And I was like, I wonder if he gets injured because of that. But it was actually something different.
You totally called it, though, pretty much.
I did pretty much call it, but I liked the way that they came to that conclusion.
Oh, okay. I definitely, the first time I watched it, did not think that he was just in the house dead somewhere. I thought it was going to be some sort of supernatural twist or something with the cave or something, but I didn't think that those big metal stands had anything to do with it. Those, I do remember going, why are they showing us that? I guess that's good attention to detail.
Yeah.
But I didn't think anything more of it.
Yeah, I definitely thought that.
Wow, good job. You're a real
Thanks.
movie sleuth.
Oh, thank you. I'll take it.
And if you know the ending, you can look for all of those things, and it makes perfect sense because when she's going to sleep that day, we hear banging and then one louder wood snapping noise and then like a tumbling sound.
Yeah.
So we hear Simone
We hear
die.
it. Yeah. I thought that was just like general ghost noise.
Yeah.
Not because like ghosts will often go. I'm talking about this like this is just like a normal thing, but like ghosts often use pipes or like things in the walls to make noise.
Yeah, ghosts love pipes.
Ghosts love pipes. So I thought maybe it was just like general ghost noise.
Mm-hmm.
The kids being, because you know at this point that it's like child ghosts.
Yeah, and it's kind of paying on our knowledge of other movies where ghosts are always doing that, right?
Yeah, so I assumed it was child ghosts, and I assumed it was like kind of sounds of mischief.
Right.
So I kind of thought that that's what that noise was, and not him actually falling.
Yeah, because why would you think that? But I love that it's in there so specifically, and they draw attention to it. So then when you find out the ending, you're like, that makes sense.
As soon as she put the doorknob into and then revealed that it was a door, I knew that that's what has happened.
Oh, really? Yeah. Wow, you got it quick.
As soon as she put the doorknob in the door after pulling the things off the door.
Right, because you were keyed in on those big stands. Yeah.
So as soon as she pulled them off the door and realized it was a door and put the knob in, I was like, I bet he's down there.
Wow. Did you think he'd be dead as well?
Yeah.
Oh, poor Simone.
I know. For a second, when she picks him up and, like, he's talking to her and there's, like, all the noise of the ghosts and everything, I kind of thought maybe for a moment, but then it becomes pretty clear that she's having, like, a delusion.
Yeah. You think maybe, like, in some way these ghosts have been protecting him or something like that?
And that he's been, like... But then I also thought about, like, he's got HIV... and he needs everyday drugs in order to stay alive. So...
But maybe ghosts are the cure for HIV. Has anyone tried that?
We should tell the scientists.
Yeah, well, I know someone who's working on the HIV vaccine. I know.
Maybe we need to get ghosts into the equation. We'll tell you.
I'm going to tell my sister, try ghosts.
Try ghosts. But I thought about that and, food. Like, humans need food and water, and you can't just live in a basement forever. So, and it's been like 9 months at this point.
Yes.
So I was like, it's very unlikely that he's still alive, because also there wasn't the invention. Like, they didn't insert magic into the story.
Right.
So there's no magic in this story. So I was like, nope, this is just ghosts and bad luck.
Yeah, no magic. Just
no
ghosts
magic,
and bad luck.
just ghosts and bad luck.
Oh, what a bad day.
And maybe some mental illness.
I wish my days had lots of magic, but no ghosts or bad luck.
That's the perfect day.
Yeah. Let's go back for a moment. And there's one other thing that they set up that I liked, and that was their kind of Peter Pan story.
Yeah.
And that's another one where at the time, my first viewing, I was like, yeah, Peter Pan, whatever. But then you see how important it is. And Simone says when talking about Peter Pan, I'll never grow up.
Yeah.
And he doesn't.
Oh, I know. I didn't catch on to the Peter Pan thing until the end.
Yeah. And it's such a great parallel to draw with Peter Pan, because they're talking about how all of these children never grow up, just like all the children at the orphanage, of course, except for Wendy leaves and she grows old. Yeah. But Wendy can't go back.
Yeah.
And there's only way that she can go back is through death.
Yeah.
So that's what happens to her, and she goes back. But I think that's the most basic level that it works on. But I also think it works on a level of Peter Pan and this kind of end up being stories about creating a family where you can. Right? It's not about your traditional family. It's about creating that yourself in the situation you're in.
Yeah.
And the children have done it. She has done it when she was adopted and then created this family with another adoption. And now she's doing it again by going back to the children.
Yeah, exactly. I did like that, and it made the ending very sweet.
Yeah. And horror movies are always full of rules. And they set up the rules, and I'm fine with any rule you set up as long as you follow it.
True.
But one I liked in this one a lot was the closer you are to death, the more capable you are of seeing that other side.
Oh, I agree.
And that's something we see in other movies as well. But it's a classic, but it's a really fun one. I like that a lot.
I think that is very true. And I also think that maybe that's true in life, like real life.
Oh.
Like you often get like people dying who are like on their deathbed who will talk to like long dead relatives. And I think that might be the fact that you're like kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Again, I hope that to be true. And I want that to be true. But I'm so boring that I'm like, oh, it's probably because you're closer to death that you're just like trying to get everything in there, and maybe you have that belief, so of course you're going to do it. And maybe if the situation you're in, you might not be in the best mental state.
True.
But I like yours much better.
But I think that you just grow closer, and as you know you're dying and you've kind of accepted it, then that allows you to be kind of like half in the afterlife and half in real life, or like alive life.
Whether it's actually happening to me or not, if I'm close to death, I'm going to start talking to all sorts of dead people.
Yeah, do it. I think it's also comforting.
Cleopatra? Is that you?
I think it has to be people you know, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess that's good.
Although my mom...
Talked to Cleopatra?
No, she talked to the queen.
What?
So my mom...
What? Tell me.
So my mom had her first knee surgery, and she's probably going to kill me for telling the story, but...
She is.
So she had... the nurse gave her too much morphine. And so we didn't realize, but she was kind of slipping into this like almost overdose. And so she was having trouble keeping her eyes open. And my stepdad, Eric, and I were talking to her, and we were trying to gauge like how out of it she was. And so we were like, do you know who's here? Do you know what's like, where are you? And we were like, who's here? And she said, oh, you know, my daughter and my husband, even though like we were the ones talking to her. So it was like step one, we were like, okay, something's wrong. And then she's like, and the queen. And we were like, okay, something's really wrong.
But you don't think that was a ghost thing. You think that's just a morphine thing.
It was probably just a morphine thing. But I feel like...
Did she specify which queen?
No.
Could have been Cleopatra.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
See, maybe it was her.
Okay, yeah.
It all comes back to Cleopatra.
I assume it was Queen Elizabeth, but
then it makes it less ghosty.
It does make it
unless it was Elizabeth I.
Oh, maybe it was Elizabeth I. Anyway, so I do believe that, like, if you are closer to death, you can just, like, talk to people.
Or perhaps the other explanation that is posited in this movie, that seeing is not believing, it's the other way around. So if you believe in something, you can then see it.
True.
That's why I need to get on board with believing more so I can see some ghosts.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And I think that, like, once you accept that it's real, it's less scary, for one. And
wait, if you think it's real, it's less scary? But if I'm like, ghosts aren't real, wouldn't that be less scary?
I think because there's an explanation for it then.
But the explanation is terrifying.
I know. The explanation is terrifying, but I think it's less fear of the unknown then, and more like fear of the actual thing.
Perhaps. But you know me, I love the unknown. I embrace the unknown.
I know you do.
I realize that the vast majority of things I'll never know. And it just frustrates me. It doesn't scare me. I hope, my true belief, we're kind of way off topic
We
now.
are, yeah.
But what I'd really want, because I don't need an afterlife with heaven and everything. What I want is, like, I just want to find out what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just tell me what happens in the end.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, in the end of what? And it's like, in the end. I want to know what happens.
The end.
Yeah, that's what I want to know most. Anyways,
Anyway,
back to this movie.
Yeah.
Well, we were kind of talking about seeing is believing, so let's take a very labored segue and talk about the visuals of this movie.
Okay.
How did you find this movie aesthetically?
I found it very nice.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
Oh, I love it. I can't
was-
believe this is a first-time director. I don't know the cinematographer, but they were amazing.
Like the set dressing, the way it was filmed, the light.
It's also timeless.
Yes.
If you said, oh, this movie takes place in 1920, I'd be like, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
If you said it takes place in 2020, I could see that as well.
Yeah.
It's only that one time when we go into the city where you get to see, like, what year it actually is.
But then also Benigna, or whatever her name is,
Mhm.
has like such an old-timey baby carriage too,
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
like almost like it could still be
Yeah.
1920 or whatever. So I found that nice because you were so ambiguous on the time that you didn't think about it.
Yeah, and I think it's probably doesn't make any real sense, but older things are scarier,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're in 2020 now. We should definitely have 80s ghosts,
Yeah.
right? But if you had a movie where there was a ghost who had like a side pony and was singing True Colors, it
I
wouldn't
don't
be
think
scary.
I'd be as scared, yeah.
Or singing She Bop. That'd be better.
Because they'd also be dancing.
Yeah, doing that 80s dance. Yeah. Yeah, neon's not scary. You
No.
know? It's just not.
Neon spandex is not scary.
No. Well,
On the right person. But yeah, there's something really scary about like a Victorian ghost.
right. And the outfits these kids had, super scary.
Yeah. And I think maybe some of it has to do with the fact that like old-timey ghosts or old-timey people, like they were more stern looking. Like you think of all the photos and portraits and stuff that you see of people and they're not smiling and they're sitting very stiffly and they've got those like high collars and everything and they look very stiff, which translates well to ghosts.
And I think it's anything you can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even that old, but I'm already getting to the point because I now have some very young coworkers and they talk about the 90s. And it's like, oh, so the 90s were... And I was like, no, I remember the 90s. You're wrong. That's not what happened. And the fact that 90s style is like back
Mm-hmm.
is real weird to me because we remember it.
We do.
I don't like things coming back that I remember.
That I've already worn once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because not only does it make you feel old, but it can't be used in a horror movie for us.
No.
So I wonder if when we're elderly, we'll see movies where there's 90s ghosts.
Because now it's just like...
And they'll be like, it's Britney, bitch. And you're like, what was that?
Because now it's just like...
Bring it sexy back. What? Huh? Who's that?
Are you done?
Probably have a couple more, but yes, go ahead.
Because it's like it campy and nostalgic for us. It's not the past that we don't understand.
Yeah, but it is for other people now.
Yeah.
Which is weird. But yeah, I love the visuals of this. I feel like in a lot of the times there's a symmetry, or maybe not even symmetry, a balance to shots that's similar to Wes Anderson, because we talked about how Wes Anderson is so meticulous in his setup, but it's different. It doesn't have that same artifice of Wes Anderson, and I don't mean that as a bad thing. It's just he is like an artificial filmmaker. It's stylized, it's over the top, and it's beautiful for that.
Right.
But this has a lot of those same elements, but it still feels much more natural. I love the lighting. I love how everything is blue when she's sad, and I loved in the final shot, or not the final shot, but close to the end when everything was that warm color when she's spinning and she had found her son, and then the color drops off to be that cold blue again. And it's just a simple lighting thing. It was so much more effective than a lot of more complicated things that are done in other movies.
Yeah. No, I definitely clued in on that. And the lighting and the like atmosphere of it was so effective.
Yeah, because this movie relies so heavily on building that atmosphere of both fear and sadness as well. And I think without this like great cinematography and color palette, a lot of that would be lost. I'm sure like jump scares and stuff, that's always going to work.
Yeah.
But the kind of the deeper emotion, the deeper core of this movie, the skeleton, if you will, would be lost without this attention to detail visually.
Yeah. Like the scene where she's pulling the bags out of...
Oh, yeah.
Like, you feel how dusty and like...
Yeah. She always wears white when she's discovering the truth.
Oh, I know.
It's funny.
She had some impractical outfits for some of the stuff that she was doing. The only one that I really found like appropriate was when she was wearing a tank top when she was having her like set up the orphanage.
Oh, that like montage. It was like a Home Alone montage.
Yeah, it was.
I really like that too.
And it was like, I was like, yeah, that's what you'd wear when you're doing like home improvement stuff and you're doing a lot of like physical work. A tank top.
Yeah.
Not a long sleeve white shirt.
And I know in a movie that has both darkness and light, light is going to spill into things, but I felt like there was extra attention placed to light seeping into dark areas. I'm not sure if that was just in my mind because it was something I'm looking for, or if that was a very purposeful and metaphorical choice that having light find its way through darkness and having these themes of looking for something throughout the movie, if that's intentional. If so, brilliant, because like there's that one time where when she close to the end when she opens that door finally and she sees the stairs, and from up there it's lit more harshly than anything because it's just that one light bulb thing. And you get to see really harsh light on the first few steps, and then there's a really dramatic drop off into darkness. And in the past we hadn't seen that at all. Light always seems to find its way slowly and slightly through the darkness, but there we didn't. But then it cuts to a shot from the basement of her walking down the stairs, and it's just a gorgeous shot, and we have this light spilling its way down and illuminating a path for her to find the truth.
It was such a beautifully shot movie, and I'm so happy that they continued it all the way through.
And when I said she always wears white when she's discovering the truth, that wasn't just a like, why would you wear white digging through that? But I think there's a purposeful attention to colors that people wear in this movie. Do you remember when we did The Sixth Sense way back on episode 2? Go check it out.
That was episode 2?
Yeah, that was the first thing we did. In The Sixth Sense, they use the color red. When red is on screen, the next thing you see is either going to be a death or someone who's already dead or someone who knows something about death. Red is the color of people who are close to death.
Right.
And I don't mean like about to die, but close to death in some sort of way. Maybe you're a murderer. That can be close to death.
Well, that's like the red blanket she was holding when she thought she was holding him.
Oh, was it red?
It was red.
For some reason I didn't. I thought
it was like a deeper red, like a burgundy almost.
Okay.
It was definitely in that color family.
Yeah, and there's so many shots of like maybe there's a not a teeter-totter, but one of those spinny type things, a merry-go-round type thing.
Yeah, old tiny.
And it'll be like a red thing on screen in an establishing shot, and then the next shot is going to deal with some of the like ghosty type things.
That was a really good way of showing that there was going to be like a ghost or something. Was they'd show the shot of the thing turning like one segment, and it was like, oh, something's coming.
This time watching it, I was able to pay attention to things a little more closely, and Simon is wearing this maroon sweater when he's drawing his imaginary friends, and that is him. He's accepted that ghosts are here, and he's drawing them. That's his acceptance of them. After Simon disappears, Laura is wearing the same sweater, like in a bigger size, the exact same material. I swear it's the same one. And that's when she is now accepting that ghosts have taken him. And she's believing in the ghosts.
Right.
And then later on, Carlos comes, visits the house, skeptic the entire time, said, no, that's not real, I'm out of here. But at the end, he is accepting, right? He's wearing the same sweater.
What?
Yeah. The exact same sweater.
I didn't notice that.
I swear it's the same. It's the same material, at least. I'm sure it's in different sizes.
Huh.
But it's this woolly maroon sweater.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
So that is like the symbol of them each accepting that this whole supernatural world exists. And they do it at different stages through the movie.
Wow. That's crazy. That is something that I did not notice, but is very smart in the costuming in the film direction.
I think because I'd already know where the movie's going,
right,
I can pick up on those. Because if you saw the red sweater, you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where
exactly.
that Simone's gonna die.
That's so crazy. Huh. You just like blew my mind.
He had seen The Sixth Sense, I guess.
Probably.
Another thing has in common with The Sixth Sense, creepy kids.
Yes.
So creepy kids work on you, huh?
Creepy children, yeah. I don't know why.
I was about to say, why is that?
I don't know.
So many movies use it. And I wonder what it is. Like, I think maybe it's that there's like a big dissonance. We think children are supposed to be like angelic and innocent. And then when they are evil or demonic, it's kind of like the most pure thing being corrupted. And that's like the big difference is the shocking part. Maybe it's that.
Oh, that's totally it.
But in this movie, I guess they weren't bad. None of the kids do anything bad. No. Except for Simone. He's a bit of a jerk.
I feel like once Tomas realizes that she's good, that the mom is just trying to help, and that she wants to like create a connection with them so that they can so that she can find her son, then he stops doing bad things to her, like locking her in the bathroom or slamming the door on her hand.
This is something I wanted to ask you about. Why did he do that?
I think he was testing her.
You know what I think?
What?
He didn't.
He didn't?
That was Simone.
Oh.
When we find Simone at the end, so he was...
He's got the mask on!
Yeah.
Oh.
Because Tomas has no reason to hurt her. He's a victim in anything. We don't have any belief that he's ever done anything bad. He may. We don't know that. But Simone, right before that, she had slapped him... And he had slapped, like, she had a plate or something, and he knocks it out. He's in a rage because he's just found out he's adopted and he might die. Yeah. So you could give him some forgiveness being a child who just learned that to freak out and slam a door and push his mom. Yeah. It's not the craziest thing. It's a lot. But that's conceivable. And at this point, we don't have any reason to believe that was Tomas. Tomas has never been just like a full corporeal being walking around and touching things. True. And we do see that Simone was wearing that in the end. I think that was Simone.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It just makes more sense.
It does, and I didn't think about it like that, but yeah.
But you're not supposed to think that at the time. No. It's when you go back afterwards. But it is interesting that they have those flashbacks to clarify all those things. They don't have it for that. No. But I think maybe the fact that what he was wearing, that kind of tells you. Yeah. Right? Because they don't make any reference to why he would be wearing that. Yeah. So I think she slapped him. Yeah. He got mad. Ran down to, remember, he kept saying, oh, you had to come to Tomas's house, his little house, which was down in the basement. Yeah. So he goes down there where he has been and probably does talk to Tomas, puts on the costume, the outfit that he was wearing, goes up there, pushes his mom, slams the door, and then in fear probably retreats down, goes back into the house, and then when she's going crazy looking for him because she thinks there's a ghost child around. Yeah. He tries to come upstairs. She throws that stuff in, locks him in there. And he probably wasn't banging to get out immediately while everyone was there because he was probably hiding because he's going to be in trouble. He just pushed his mom. And then that day, she has to go to the hospital, right? Because she breaks her leg. Yeah. So if in like a few hours, why they didn't hear him, they were gone. And then that night, they do hear him. And that's when he falls and I guess breaks his neck or something. That's so sad. Yeah. That was like so sad when I realized that I was right and that he had actually fallen down the stairs and like died. Yeah. And the mom, the last thing she ever did was slap him. I know. Yeah. Sad movie. Yeah. It is sad. Well, I guess we've talked this far, but we've never really talked about the characters. There's only a few. Yeah. But what do you think? How about Laura? I liked her. Great performance. Amazing. I feel like in movies like this, sometimes the fact that the character like goes to the school or whatever before
is used too much as like a crutch for why they're back there. But I think her returning and her having some knowledge of the house really helped the story along, because it's not like, oh, how did she know to look in here, or like how did she know where that was? And so it kind of made sense that she wanted to come back and make this like a school for like kids again, and to like reinvigorate the house as it was. I think that made sense, and it wasn't kind of gimmicky or like used as a crutch to kind of explain the whole movie.
No, I feel like every character in this was very grounded in reality. I think in a lot of these movies, you have the point where the wife believes the husband does not, but it's so extreme that he's just like, what? No, that couldn't happen. And Carlos is a bit like that, but also like seems reasonable.
Yeah.
I see his point. If this was the real world, I don't think his actions are like crazy to not believe that there are ghosts, because he's like a doctor. He's like, no, there's no ghosts.
Yeah, he's got that science brain.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna only believe in what he believes in from a science perspective.
Yeah, and then on the other side, the mother character often goes like so far into hysteria, right?
Yeah.
That it's less grounded in reality, and she gets pretty far, and she has every reason to, because her child is missing. But I never felt like it was too much or melodramatic. It all seemed very appropriate for the situation, which was a really drastic situation.
It was, yeah.
But her performance was amazing.
Off topic again. Can you imagine being Carlos and going back to the house because he hasn't heard from her in a while and finding both of them?
Yeah. I think initially I thought, like, why would he leave her there? But she does like literally say, I just need 2 days to say goodbye, and then we can move on with our lives.
I also feel like he's at the point where he sees that there's kind of no hope.
Yeah.
Like he's I feel like when he leaves, he must have been like, it's probably the last time I'm going to see her because she's so far gone.
Oh, I didn't feel that.
Oh, I felt like that.
I felt like he was trying to do anything to remove her from the situation because he still wants a life with her, even though it can't be the three of them anymore. And he's even willing to say, like, okay, fine, you can stay for 2 days and then let's move on.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he wanted, because he has lost hope with finding Simone.
Yeah. It's interesting we both took it different ways.
Yeah, I think I'm more sympathetic with him than a lot of people are. Maybe it's just because normally the man in that role is so terrible that when this guy is just like, yeah, he's fine. I think the worst thing that he does always is when he says like, oh yeah, it's my turn, I'll go get up and get him, and then doesn't get up.
And then never does it. Yeah.
Which is kind of appropriate for the rest of this movie, right? Because he doesn't do the things that she and Simone need him to do.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't love him or anything, but I don't think he was a terrible person.
No, but it was interesting to see his side of this, which is basically just his wife spiraling into like the abyss.
Yeah. But it turns out though she's right mostly.
Yeah. They just believe in different things. I think it's like a fundamental difference in beliefs that kind of separate them in the movie.
What about Simone? You said you thought he was creepy from the beginning.
Yeah, he was creepy from the beginning.
I didn't think so.
Really?
No, I thought he seemed like super cute.
He was cute at the start, and then in the cave, that's when he turned to be creepy.
I think the situation of him talking to someone that you can't see is creepy, but I don't think his like demeanor or performance was creepy.
Oh, I found him very creepy.
I also hang out with a lot of children for work. I don't just like, go out and hang out with children. But I don't know. I've seen a lot creepier kids, is all I'm saying.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's some creepy kids out there. No, but I thought he was cute.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I thought he was, and it may be because he is the same size as the kids in the orphanage. Mm-hmm. Like he's like the same height. And
he's orphan sized, yeah.
He's orphan sized, yeah.
Well, he was an orphan.
True. But yeah, so it felt like he was one of them more than like alive.
Oh, like even when he was walking around,
yeah.
And he also, I guess, eventually did feel more a part of that world.
Yeah.
As did Laura.
But it just, like, it seemed like he fit that role well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what started off the creepiness.
Speaking of creepy, what about Benigna?
Oh my god, creepy.
So creepy,
So
huh?
creepy. When she arrived with the papers, I was like, something's off here.
And what I love is that Laura also is like, hey, something's off here.
Yeah.
It's not one of those movies where she's like, oh yeah, here's our daily schedule, here's some keys,
Yeah.
whatever. She was like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Why do you need to know that? There's something wrong here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed like, because I was like, she's a social worker, but like they've already adopted him and they don't have any other kids at the house right now. That
And why is she asking about the house and what you're
fostering.
going to change?
Yeah. Like I was like, this doesn't make any sense, because I assume that they're getting the house ready to pass an inspection. Why would the social worker be there already?
Yeah, and that makes me appreciate this movie more because the characters are competent and she was able to be like, hey, there's something wrong with me here. Get out of my house.
Yeah, she just wasn't like, oh yeah, just come on in. Here's a key. Like,
and then one of the first really scary parts is when it's her in the shed.
Yeah.
That was super scary. But then it's also kind of like whimsical, the music that they played
a
when she
little
ran away.
bit, yeah.
That was an odd choice. But I guess she is an odd character because you're not sure if she's threatening, right? Because even when they go back to look for her and she's carrying the big stick, Carlos is like, what are you going to do, beat up an old woman? And she's like, oh, okay, and puts it down. So
he rips it from her hands.
Oh, okay. But there is this idea of like, well, she's not that bad, right?
Yeah.
So you're not quite sure how threatening to take her. And she looks, like I was saying before, strange, and that's unsettling.
Yeah, those glasses.
But not like scary.
And like, she's unsettling.
Yeah, definitely. She's a ghost too. She's not in a literal sense, but she is someone who is stuck in the past and she's living in that world. So she's also someone that's kind of out of step with time.
Yeah. Why did she murder the children? Because they murdered her son?
Oh, it's Jason. It's Jason Voorhees.
Yeah.
But you haven't seen those.
No.
But you know it's Jason.
I do. I know a little bit about it.
So, well, maybe I won't draw the parallels just in case I don't want to spoil the Friday the 13th movies, but I'll just say why Benigna feels this way is that all those kids took her son, Tomas, to the cave. They took his mask off and said, hey, come out. And they're making fun of him.
Yeah.
And of course he wouldn't come out. So then he was in the cave and drowned.
Mm-hmm.
So she killed all the people responsible for her son's drowning.
Yeah.
Very Jason-esque.
Okay. Yeah, so she was creepy. That, like, that shot where they remove the thing off her head and you see her jaw just like...
Oh, yeah, that was
like the only gory thing in the movie, really. And it was just awful.
I know that Guillermo del Toro is only the producer of this one, but he also, like we saw with Pan's Labyrinth, will have very little gore. And when it's there,
it's effective.
Feel
so
it.
That's kind of what I was thinking, because I was thinking about Pan's Labyrinth. Was there another one that we watched?
I don't think you've seen another one of his yet.
Okay, anyway, it felt very him.
Yeah.
And I had to check, and I checked before we started recording, but I was like, oh, I thought he had like a bigger part, like a role in making the movie, but maybe he just consulted on that.
He may have been more hands-on because the producer depends, it varies greatly what they do. In this case, I don't know too much about it, but I know that the director and the studio went to him specifically because they said, if we have you on board, we can get more money.
Right.
And he was like the biggest Spanish director around at the time.
And I think the director...
Well, one of the top 3.
I think the director is actually friends with him.
That makes sense.
So maybe they did have that, like, consulting, like, hey, we need something gory, and, like, do you want to go all out on this?
Or it could even be as simple as they're using the same production people that he has used in the past. So
makeup artists, yeah.
But it felt very Del Toro of no gore. And then when you see something, it's not even the most gory, because there wasn't even much blood or anything, but it's so unsettling, disturbing in a really visceral way.
Right. Yeah. Right? Like, it was that view of you look at it and you say, that's not how it's supposed to look.
Yes.
Basically. And her jaw was basically like, you look at it and you go, oh, that's not supposed to be like that. So it worked because it's so jarring to see the bottom of someone, like the bottom half of someone's skull like that.
Yeah. And he tried to give her mouth to mouth.
How?
Oh, I assume, so he's a doctor, he knows what he's doing. I assumed he did like the seal with your hand kind of thing.
Maybe.
Because it doesn't, like, you should have a tight seal, but you can kind of do what you can.
Yeah, true. It was just so open. I was like, did he stick his whole face in there?
I thought maybe he lifted the jaw, like, up and then used his hand to try to form a seal. But, again, specifics that don't really matter. He did what he could and he failed.
Yeah. I think she was already dead.
Yeah.
Until she wasn't.
Yeah, that's one bit that's very horror movie and didn't really fit in with everything.
Okay, I thought
being
that too.
entirely real because it seemed like a movie thing. And I forgive it because I think that they want more jump scares because this isn't that type of movie, but they know that's more marketable.
That's what sells, yeah.
So they threw one in and then people are gonna, it worked.
Yeah.
So,
we both jumped.
So I forgive it then. Yeah.
There was a couple times where we both jumped. And one time where I didn't jump, but I kind of did.
And I praised you for not jumping.
And you praised me for not jumping. I had my hand under the pillow and I just like squeezed it really hard because I kind of could tell it was coming.
I think the only one that really got me was in the shed when it was just a pan and like I didn't see Benigna there, but then you see her suddenly. And that one got me.
Yeah. Oh man.
One other character I wanted to mention was I don't even remember her name, the medium, Aurora, I think it was her name.
Yeah.
But I just want to say that is Geraldine Chaplin, who is Charlie Chaplin's daughter.
Oh, really?
And she has a very, very extensive career, but it's not known terribly well in North America.
Oh.
She's American. Chaplin was British, right? And she had like kind of a decade-long career in France doing French movies.
Oh, wow.
And then she had a decade in Spain doing Spanish movies.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting career, and it's kind of sad that people don't know about it. Also, I love that she kept her last name.
Yeah. Well, people don't know about it as well here, but she's worldwide is very well known, has won all sorts of awards and things. And then the director of this went on to do some bigger American things, and she was in some of those as well. So I think she's in one of the Jurassic World movies.
Oh, really? That's odd. I don't know why that's odd, but just...
Well, it is odd. Like, the people who made this making a Jurassic World seems like not quite right.
Yeah, that's what seems odd, is because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of crossover into, like, Chris Pratt movies.
Yeah, but then if you look at people who directed like Marvel movies now, it's like
true.
We're getting directed a lot Hunt more... for the Wilder People. How about a $400 million Marvel movie?
Yeah.
Oh, you did 500 Days of Summer? We'll give you like $900 million to do this now.
Yeah.
But how about the scene with the medium? It's quite different from the rest of the movie and seemed more fitting with a lot of other contemporary horror films. How did you feel about the whole medium sequence?
I liked it. It added like a layer. I really like those shows. I can't remember what it's actually called now. BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yes, the supernatural
ones. I love that kind of thing where they're investigating, and this added such a layer of like kind of allowing her to think, like, know that she's right. Mm-hmm. That it's not just her, that other people are in the world with her and believe her.
I'm sure based on how I normally talk about movies, the expectation for me right now would be like, no, they should have kept it somber and timeless and not had all of that kind of technology, and that whole scene is just too much like reality TV. I loved it. I thought it was great.
No, it was great.
Because what it comes down to is it was effective at being scary, first of all. And then, yeah, that character stuff that you were talking about works well. And I think as much as we might not want it, that is a part of our world now. Mm-hmm. Those types of shows, this sequence in a horror movie, it has been around for as long as so many other tropes in horror movies. So it's a part of things now. It's not something that is gimmicky and only of this time because it's been around for long enough. And when it comes down to it, when all of those kids were screaming for help and saying they're sick, someone help us, it was one of the scariest parts of this entire movie.
It was just like, it was so upsetting. I don't even know if I was super scared. I was just like so upset by that.
Oh, I was scared too.
I was probably scared too, but yeah, I found that really drove home the point of them being like lost children, not so much like malicious.
Yeah, and because of course we find out that none of the kids do anything bad.
Yeah.
They just want to.
They just want someone to take care of them.
Yeah. I also love that scene because it is one of the best examples of not showing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a lot of horror movies, I'm on board until they show like the demon and or the witch in The Conjuring and things like that.
Yeah.
Then it's much less scary to me. And what I love is even if they, of course, can't show the ghost because they're kind of invisible to us
ghosts.
at that point.
Yeah.
They do a great job of showing the reactions of the people watching rather than showing the thing itself. And that is so much scarier because the performances in this are so strong. When we just see the fear on, I'm not sure the actress's name, Belen Rueda, I think. When we see the fear on her face or those other people there, that is what's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we actually got to see children being sick, crying in their beds, I don't think that would have been as scary.
No.
I think this was the best way they could have done that.
Yeah.
So I really did enjoy that scene.
I enjoyed Laura's face because during this scene, you see her realizing that these are her friends.
Mm.
And she had left the orphanage at this point, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So she is kind of realizing that she knows these children,
Right.
ghosts, and she's like kind of reframing how she's approaching it now.
That's right. I didn't catch on, but that must have been the realization point because then
she stops
when she comes back, she's like talking to them as like, "Hey, come play.
Yeah.
Let's work this out."
Yeah. And so she starts out scared because you hear screaming and it's kind of a spooky thing that they're doing, and then kind of moves into her being like, wait a minute, I know these kids. And then wait a minute, what happened to them? And then she's so determined to figure out what happened and to try and help them in order to get her son back.
And those sequences when she's watching the old video as well, that was really creepy.
Yeah. I loved how Carlos is still like a skeptic. Like he's like that man, Professor Leo or whatever his name is. He was in there for an hour. He could have played with all the cables and set this up.
Yeah.
It's like,
but it's true. He could have.
Yeah.
Like I could, with the equipment I have, I could fake that.
Yeah.
But at that point, like, I don't know. If your kid's missing, I would be willing to believe anything.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
It's any possible avenue, which is why I think Carlos lets them do this in the first place.
I think he was letting them do that for her sake.
Yes, and I was just going to say, I think also because he can see his wife spiraling kind of in front of him. And so he's trying to really, like, placate her so that she doesn't get any more, like, dangerous to herself.
Yeah. Were there any other scenes that really stood out to you that you enjoyed before we get to the ending?
I think her sitting at the table, setting everything up, and then sitting at the table waiting for the ghosts to come, like her first attempt to...
Also like in Home Alone.
Really?
Yeah, the Home Alone montage ends with Kevin sitting at the table.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh. But yeah, like her first attempt to kind of contact them was by setting up that dinner or that lunch that she remembers fondly and trying to like...
She made the same pie that they were poisoned with.
I know.
That seems like a bad call, actually.
I know.
But maybe she didn't know that.
She probably didn't know that that's what
why
poisoned
would she
them.
know that? Yeah.
But yeah, so that was like kind of a scene that they did the flashbacks for, and I kind of loved it.
Yeah.
That was really fun. And also when it's the ending, but when the blind girl comes and touches her face.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll talk about that because
Okay.
I love that as well.
Okay.
One little thing I really liked early on in the movie is the sequence when she is in bed and she's telling her husband like exactly how she feels, and she's so bare and raw, and the performance again I think was just amazing. And if that wasn't enough, and it was such a good scene just as it was written, as it was performed. But then we get to see the feet in the bathroom.
Yes.
With light spilling into the darkness, and then the light turns off, and it turns out it was Carlos there, and who was in the bed with her. I think that one is maybe one you could say that could have been in her mind.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, I loved her performance there, and how quickly she was able to transition it from this just desperate, broken mother into the fear of what could be behind that door.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really good scene.
Well, we've been talking for quite a while, so maybe we should get to the ending of this movie. So like I said, there's a lot of parallels with the beginning and the ending, both with the knock on the door and the game, because at first it's for Simone so he could find his coins, because the game is that they take your treasured thing, and then you have to
solve the
clues and find it, and then you get a wish. And oh no.
What?
Isn't his wish that his mom and him can stay and play with them forever?
Yeah.
Did his wish kill them?
I think all the pills she took killed them.
But none of that would have happened. Maybe it's the will of the ghosts.
True.
The will of the game.
Ooh.
Probably not, but he gets his wish.
Yeah, he does. He gets to stay and
It was
play
a
with his
total
friends.
monkey paw wish.
Oh. What's a monkey paw wish?
Oh, a monkey paw wish. It's from another... What is it from? Is it a Twilight Zone episode? Twilight Zone movie? Anyways, the monkey paw is, the story is that this person gets a monkey paw and it grants you wishes, but everything you wish for has like a terrible twist on it.
Okay.
So you wish to play forever with your mom, you both die and you're playing forever. Or you wish for a turkey sandwich, turns out the turkey's a little dry. There's going to be some people out here that get that reference and they're going to love it. But yeah, so there's the game is paralleled. And because her most precious thing has been, she and we at this point assume, taken by the ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And she picks up on the game pretty quickly at first, but it's just the doorknob that stumps her. Because I think that's before... Did she have the doorknob for like 3 months?
I don't remember when she got the doorknob.
But either way, she does the first clues quite quickly and then has the doorknob and can't figure out that part.
And she checks all the doorknobs in the house.
Yeah. She's going around everywhere and can't find it. And of course, it's very hard. But the ghosts lead her to that room, I think like 3 times. And she just can't like put it together because she doesn't know that they're on her side.
Yes.
Right? But I love how watching it a second time, you can see that they were trying to help her throughout the movie. And we and she were just not able to pick up on it.
True.
And then with the 1, 2, 3, knock on the wall, that game, which was, of course, great. I loved that so much. But that was another parallel in the end. And I loved how that was shot.
Yes.
Because I think in most modern movies, you would have the knock and then you'd have a
jump scare.
A real quick cut. And it would show that. But this was so much more effective and so much more representative of the feeling of this movie as a whole, because she would say it and then you get this slow, painfully slow pan.
Yeah. Because she's scared.
Yeah.
She's scared, but she's doing this because she wants her son. And so she turns so slowly at first and nothing happens. So she's like, okay.
But even when she looks, it takes the camera a lot longer. Yeah. And that's what this movie's about. It's not about that quick scare to startle you.
Yeah.
It's about what am I going to see and how long can I prolong this before something scary actually happens. And then the time when you actually see one first in the doorway and then like the group of them.
Yeah.
Did that scare you?
Yes. When the door opened, I was scared. And you're like, it's like the shed scene where you're studying it really hard to see if you're missing something.
Yeah, because what's in the darkness?
And then like who's in the doorway or whatever. And there was nobody in the doorway. I think there was like a desk on the other side of the hall.
Not the first time at least.
But it was just like, what am I missing here? Because in a jump scare kind of heavy movie, it would be in the first one.
Yeah. Or maybe the third one, but it would be all at once.
Yes.
There wouldn't be this build.
Yes. And then as you see one ghost child and then you see all of them and they're slowly moving forward and they look uncertain as well.
Yeah.
Like they don't look
like they're playing.
No, they don't look like they're playing. They look like they're like, should we be doing this? Like, should we be showing ourselves to this person and like slowly kind of like approaching?
Yeah, but also that's the game, right? You have to be perfectly still. And then after they come close to her and they tag her,
Mm-hmm.
I also love this choice. There's so many times where she could scream in fear, and any other movie they would go for it.
Yeah.
She doesn't. She takes a moment and kind of collects herself and is resolved and strong.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful choice and performance as well.
Mm-hmm.
That it wasn't a jump scare. It wasn't her screaming in response to it. There was just more depth to all of those.
Yeah. Yeah. And she is very clearly on a quest. And she like takes a moment to remind herself what her goal is, and then runs after them.
So then she figures things out, goes down to the basement. We have this scene where we think he's okay, but that was just her wish fulfillment, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what to take away from that whole sequence. Like, is that her mind doing that to her? Is that some sort of supernatural thing? I'm not exactly sure what to take away, but I'd take it as just that's what she was hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted it so badly that she sees it for a while.
I think so. I think at this point she's had a little bit of a mental break.
And she has been taking those pills
All day. Yeah.
Also, is she ill?
No.
Because at the orphanage, it's for children who have some sort of difficulty in one way or another.
Maybe.
People are blind or they have a brace. And when she's talking to the medium, and the medium says people who are closer to death can see this, and she pulls up her arm and Laura has that mark. I wasn't sure what that was from. Do you know what I'm talking about? And then the medium also has all sorts of marks all over her arm.
Right.
And
Yeah.
she takes pills throughout the movie too.
Does she?
Yeah.
Oh.
But she's also said she hasn't been sleeping, so maybe those were sleeping pills. But if they're sleeping pills, why is she taking them in the middle of the day?
I was thinking they were pain pills after her
maybe
accident when she
that's
hurts
very
her
possible.
leg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they definitely don't say there's anything wrong with her. But the fact that she was at that orphanage and the medium says those of us who are closer to death, it makes me think that something was going on there.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it doesn't really matter.
No.
But it does just link her closer to the kids again.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, she goes to the basement and it turns out that Simone is dead, and we get she's led to find the body, just like the ghost had
They'd been trying to show her.
Yeah, for a while now. And so when she pulled the mask off, you were quite aware of who that was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you see the curly hair, and I like the face they did on it. It wasn't like gruesome, but it was clearly someone who's been dead for a while.
And someone who died in pain.
Yeah.
Because he clearly fell and yeah.
Well, I think the reason the writer or director or whoever it was made him fall is because, as tragic as it is, it's almost a more merciful death than if he had just been left there without his medication to die from HIV and for to turn to AIDS, or if it
or starvation. Yeah,
it was kind of a small mercy almost.
A little bit, yeah.
And we're already killing a child in this movie, and they're like, okay, can we make it a little more palatable?
Yeah,
and I think maybe that's why. And plus, it would make it more difficult if he was down there alive for days, because then he could be making noise more often to help her find him.
Yeah, and then it's why didn't she find them?
Yeah.
You had so many opportunities. Why didn't you?
And then she lets out that scream, and she has not been the one to do that out of fear this entire movie. And then when she's saying no, 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 and it's reverberating throughout the house, and we get these shots of the house and the rooms being perfectly still, and just her anguish screams going through it. I thought that was it was pretty devastating. And again, great performance.
It's so good. So good and so well shot.
Yeah. Well, then we get into the kind of almost second ending, because she takes Simone up to the room where the beds were. You see there's 8 beds there? There's only 6 of them. It's like they knew they were going to stay. There's a lot of little things like that where the ending is kind of shown to you earlier on.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, that one part where the blind girl touches her face and says, "It's Laura." That was so sad, but so sweet.
I might have almost cried.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
That was such an emotional moment too, because you feel like the release of all that grief almost.
Yeah.
Because she realizes that she gets to be with her son and all of these people that she cared so much about in the end.
Yeah.
So I liked the ending of this movie.
And again, I think people could make the reading like, oh, this was all in her head. But I think there's enough there that these ghosts were real. So why wouldn't her kind of ghost afterlife be real as well?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on board for saying that everything that happens in this movie pretty much happens in this movie.
I think everything happens in this movie.
And I like that they actually had a blind actor playing a blind person.
Did they?
Which they don't have a lot in movies.
Oh,
So
I
that's
like
nice.
that. Yeah, that's always frustrating when they have someone who doesn't have that, like, health issue playing someone with that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, there's so many people who play people in wheelchairs and then, like, are not actually in a wheelchair.
Right. Except in Mac and Me, he was actually in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
That's why that movie's so great.
Your favorite.
But yeah, then we get the lines about like, oh, it's like Wendy, she's gotten old, and that she's gonna stay and play with them forever. And as sad as the movie is, and it's pretty crushing.
Yeah.
It kind of ends on a happy note.
They
as
get
happy
what they
as
want.
this could be.
Those two, the mom, Laura and Simon get what they want.
Yeah.
In the end, which I like.
Yeah, and me who wants a bleak ending to everything, I was very happy to get it because I loved the characters so much. Like she, again, I keep saying it, great performance.
Yeah, for sure. I liked the way that they ended it, and I liked what they did with Carlos when he finds his necklace again. Yeah,
let's talk about that. So what do you think happened there?
I think because she pulls it off in like anger when she realizes that he's dead, the son's dead, and I think it probably just fell on the ground and they didn't find it when they were taking care of the bodies.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But what do you think happens with Carlos? What do you think his journey is at the end there?
I think he's come back one last time to, like, you know, closure maybe. Mm-hmm. And I think he gets it because I think he realizes that she's okay and that somehow she found their son. So
do you think he believes?
I think he believes.
Do you think he sees them?
No. Do you?
Well, I think I agree with you because with my whole sweater bit that I talked about earlier, he's wearing that same sweater. So that is like a little subtle way of saying that he gets it now.
Yeah.
But I think when he finds the necklace, which was going to be returned when she finds Simone, so now he knows. And I think that's enough. But they did go that extra step of having those doors open in front of him.
Right. I think it was just her way of telling him, like, it's okay. Mm-hmm. I'm at peace, and I have our boy.
And I think it's a really different image to have these double doors open and a soft breeze come through than doors slamming.
And all that light, right? Like, because it's, like, bright and summer light, and it's very, like, daytime calm.
Yeah, it's open, and it's warm, and it's accepting. And I think... I don't believe he literally sees them, but I think he takes this as a message of both with the necklace and with those doors moving and that breeze kind of coming through that we're together and we're okay. Yeah. And he takes that away, and I think that's enough.
I agree.
And then he kind of smiles, and normally I'd be like, they don't need that, but I kind of loved it.
No, because you can see him kind of accepting and moving forward. Like, you know that he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because he knows that they're okay.
Yeah, and him smiling and leaving doesn't make you think, like, is he going to stay there and look for them? Is he going to kill himself?
No,
because we don't want, the movie shouldn't go to those places.
No.
And his character shouldn't go to those places.
And we can see that he's like, okay, I can move forward. They're not stuck in, you know, somewhere awful. They've got each other.
Yeah. But my rationale comes in and I was like, look, anything is hell if you do it forever. Right? Like, sure, you're with your son, your most cherished thing in the world, but just every day, forever, no change. Mm-hmm. That's hell. If you do anything for long enough, it's hell.
It's true.
But that's not what the movie is showing. It's that they got what they wanted, and these children also kind of get what they want.
Yeah. It was such a happy ending.
Yeah. as happy as a movie about a small child with HIV dying alone in a basement and then a mom killing herself when she finds him could possibly be.
Oh, God.
In a house full of murdered orphans.
When you put it that way, it sounds awful.
Whose bodies were burned in the furnace
Yeah.
and remained there for
When
decades.
you say it like that, it sounds terrible.
And another child who was teased because of his facial deformities and left to drown in a cave. But yeah, pretty happy.
Thanks for ruining my final point.
No, but that's I joke, but also how great of a skill as a filmmaker to have all of those elements in a movie and then have you go, what a happy movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's good work.
Good work. Good skill. Good.
It is an expertly crafted movie, I'd
is.
say. Performances, direction, cinematography, script, all of it I think works great together. It doesn't have any single element that I could just dissect and talk about for years. It's, I don't even think, a huge metaphor for something else. I think it's a great story and it's heartfelt and nuanced enough. It's like a good fairy tale is what this movie is. And I think, of course, they know that. I said that thinking that I just came up with it, but then I realized, oh, they clearly went for that with all of their Peter Pan references and just how these children are going to live on forever.
No, you're the first person to put that together.
Samantha, any final thoughts on The Orphanage? You were 90% to loving it.
I'm still 90% to loving it.
What? Not even the 91? This conversation didn't make you...
95% to 80%.
So out of 10 is a 7 for you?
7.5.
Okay, I'll take it.
I know you don't like it when I do
0.5s?
0.5s.
Yeah. We have a 10-point scale, and you're always like, 7.3 repeating.
Yeah, that's how you know.
Yeah, I love it. I think I appreciated it more, perhaps, this time. So ideally, I think you should watch this movie, listen to us, then watch it again the next morning. Watch it at night when it's super scary, and then watch it again the next day.
It was definitely super scary.
Yeah. But as great as it is at being scary, because I also think this is one of the scariest movies. It's not for a lot of people, but this is one that definitely works on me. But I think as scared as I was the first time watching it, I didn't appreciate some of the other things. And being able to watch it a second time, knowing where it was going, I thought it's not going to be as good of a movie because the surprise and the fear is the heart of this movie, the skeleton of this movie. But when I watched it again, I was like, it's not. The fear is not the skeleton of this movie. That relationship, that longing, the despair and desperation is the skeleton of this movie.
Whoa, man.
Yeah. Great movie. Check it out.
Everyone should watch it.
Orfanato from 2007. Well, let's take this opportunity to thank our second sponsor of the episode, and that is our good friends at the Edmonton Community Foundation. So the ECF acts as a bridge between donors and charities in an attempt to create a strong, vibrant community here in Edmonton for generations to come. And you can start an endowment fund by yourself or with a group, and once it reaches $10,000, it can start distributing funds. And this year, the ECF is focusing on millennials, and that is part of their Vital Signs, which is an annual checkup conducted by the foundation in partnership with the Edmonton Social Planning Council, and it measures how the community is doing. And if you'd like to learn more or start one of these funds yourself, you can go to ecfoundation.org. That's the Edmonton Community Foundation at ecfoundation.org.
Let's get that money.
Yeah, get it. Or you give it first.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Then you get it.
Right.
They, I'm sure, can explain it much better than I did. But my explanation is first you give it, then you get it.
True, yeah.
I think that's how endowment funds work.
I think that's
first you give it, then you get it.
That's how life works.
Whoa, yeah. That's just good advice.
It is.
For how to live your life.
Yeah.
First you give, then you get.
Exactly. Is that karma?
No, how we use karma isn't really...
Oh, okay. Let's not get into that.
Yeah, that's karma, man. That's karma.
Okay, well, we will see you next week when I reveal what my spooky pick for October is, and maybe we'll tell some ghost stories.
Yes, we'll definitely have some spooky things for you as our Spooktober continues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling pretty spooky.
Me too.
I'm excited about it. I'm excited to learn about what your movie is going to be because you haven't seen many horror movies that without me because you kind of didn't watch them before.
Yeah,
so I'm excited
exactly.
to. Can we get any little hints of what the future has in store for us?
It's magical.
Oh, black magic?
I'm not going to say anymore.
Okay. It's a nutcracker, isn't it?
Yeah. So spooky. Okay, we'll see you next week.
Adios a todos.
Oh, bye.
Like, if you ask me right now, I'd probably be on the side of like, no, I don't believe in ghosts, but I really, really want to. And for the time when I'm watching a movie like this, I 100% do during the movie. And I'm trying to carry that over into the rest of my life.
Into your real life? Yeah. Absolutely.
Ah, what's that? It was a ghost. See, like that.
There's no ghosts in our condo.
You don't know that.
This is a ghost-free zone.
I'm not sure about that. We are also moving next month into a ghost house.
There's no ghosts in the house.
There might be 6 ghosts in that house. 6 ghost orphans.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Guillermo. Laura. Benigna.
No, Benigno is the mom.
Yeah, but in our house.
Oh.
That's one of the ghosts.
Okay, gotcha.